Lewis will tell me whether or not that statement is ridiculous. So, Lewis, if someone sitting here said, with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, the Jets are the biggest threat to Kansas City in the entire AFC, would that be ridiculous?
Yep, that's ridiculous. Because the biggest threat to Kansas City is the biggest threat is the Houston Texans. Because why? Because they have a better culture, number one. Number two, their quarterback is healthy, and there is no question about C.J. Stroud. And number three, their defense is just as good, will be just as good, and maybe even better than the New York Jets defense. So that is the biggest threat to KC. Sorry, Greeny. You know I love you, bro. It's just not your Jets. Moving on, next.
Yeah, I had a little technical issue there. I didn't hear him, so I'm going to assume he said yes. Next. Lewis, if I said Tua Tagovailoa will be in the MVP conversation in December, is that ridiculous?
Yeah, no, it's not ridiculous at all. Look, we can bang on Tua all we want. We can talk about Tua every which way from Sunday, and we do in a negative way. But the young man is a good player, and the young man right now feels wanted. He has great weaponry. He has a strong run game. They have a good football team, and right now he has a point to prove. He will be in the MVP come December. Why? Because this offensive is explosive, and he's a damn good football player, full stop.
And he's got a great coach, too, and he was in that conversation for parts of last year. All right, one more. Would it be ridiculous if someone said Josh Allen is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah, it'd be ridiculous, and I'll tell you why. And I don't want to have to use this as my proof twice, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I can tell you this: there's a football team. I'll reveal that team in the next segment. That said, when they go up against any quarterback in the NFL, the one who scares them the most. And this is a football team that I think we'll all respect their opinion. The quarterback that scares them the most is that guy on your screen, Josh Allen, because he's a freak as an athlete, both as a runner and a thrower, and a guy who they know can turn the game with one swing of that arm, like he almost did against them last year in the playoffs. As a little teaser as to which team I'm talking about.
100%. And let me make clear. This time it's not John Fink's fault. Usually I blame our CP. He says negative things about Josh Allen all the time. But in this particular case, ESPN polled 103 NFL players and asked them a variety of questions. And on the topic of who's the most overrated quarterback, Josh Allen got the most votes. You see the top three vote getters there. It's Allen, and then it's Hurts, and Tua Tagovailoa. For the record, others who received votes are Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy. Go ahead, Lewis. So one thing, the reason I brought it up, and again, I am a huge, I've said many times, if I had the second pick in the whole draft, everyone would take Mahomes first. I would take Allen second. That's just me. But go ahead. So now the players are saying that, Lewis. Your reaction?
Yeah, I'm shocked. Look, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs are the team that said, look, when we play Josh Allen, we know, and with one swing of that arm, he can win the football game. And he almost did it against them. Just this past year, if Stephon Diggs makes the catch. And that throw, maybe the only other quarterback that can make that throw that he made to Stephon is their quarterback. So basically they're staring at a guy who can do a lot of the same things that their quarterback can do. And the only way I can really kind of like look at this, with a true, I would say objective perspective is this. Any quarterback that I played against who had that dual run pass capability, that I knew that no matter how deep I was as a safety on the football field, he could still put it over my head. Those are the guys who scared me to death. I remember Major Harris from West Virginia when I played against him when I was at Pittsburgh, thinking, this guy can throw it from anywhere. He can beat me at any time. I have to defend the entire field. Josh Allen does that. He does that. It's that simple. He simply does that. I don't know how he's number one on this list. It just makes no sense to me.
So help me with the psychology of this. You're a psychology major from Wesleyan University, shout out. So help me with, why do you think the NFL players think of him? Again, it's only 11 out of 103, but for whatever it's worth, it's more than anyone else. Why would they say he's overrated?
This is top-tier hateration, Miss Dancery, as the famous Mary J. Blige once said. So honestly, when I read that, when I saw that, I laughed to myself. I was like, okay, it's got to be just AFC East opponents. It's got to be Jets players that say, it's so wild and absurd. I can't. If this were something about Josh in his first year, right? I would get it. But everything we applaud Lamar for and CJ, which is, hey, he can kill you with his arm, he can kill you with his legs. You do. Josh Allen, he will run through you. He plays the game like a running back. This is a guy who, again, we talked about it ad nauseum, 13 seconds left. Had that Bills defense held up, we're looking at Josh Allen in a completely different way. And unfortunately, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Pastor. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that's my
he gets knocked down for things that had nothing to do with him.
And I understand like turnovers and interceptions. Okay, when he first came into the league, I get the criticism, but he has completely changed the way he plays. And I don't know, it seems like people still have that old version of Josh in their head.
You know, this is fascinating. This is his narrative. He started off at Reedley Community College. Then he transferred to Wyoming.
Yeah.
And in our own draft room, we had a lot of debate about his accuracy and his completion percentage. That's why he wasn't a top 3 pick. And to me, if you said he was overrated coming out, Greeny, I would understand that. Because, again, there was a massive disagreement over his ability. But fast forward now, I'm floored by this because similar to what Louis said, he could beat you from the pocket, but I know when we were defending him, we were scared to death what he could do outside the pocket, and he's only gotten better.
Yep. Yeah, the quarterbacks who went ahead of him in that draft were Baker Mayfield, who went 1, Sam Darnold, who went 3, then Josh Allen got drafted, and that was the year that they had all those quarterbacks, including Lamar Jackson, who went at the very end. So, look, I mean, the players are allowed to vote for whoever they want, and maybe there are some defensive players who look at it. Louis, you might say, you know what, he's going to throw us one during the game. And I get why a defensive player would say that. He throws a lot of interceptions. He's also going to, account for 3 touchdowns. Would she be shocked? Here we go. So, Kmart, would you be shocked if Justin Fields does not start a game for the Steelers this entire season?
Oh my gosh, Greeny, I would be so shocked if he doesn't start a game. Not just because I think Russell kind of will fall off, but basically Justin Fields isn't even guaranteed to be on this roster beyond this year. So if you don't start him, you don't get any sort of return on your investment, then what? What do you even bring him back next year? You haven't seen anything. So hopefully we see Justin Fields at some point.
We'll talk more about the Steelers a little later. Next one, Kmart, would you be shocked if Brandon Ayuk is still on the 49ers at the end of the season?
Greeny, not shocked. You know why? Because Brandon Ayuk, he wants his old thing back. He wants to be a 49er. He just wants the 49ers to pay him. I think these two sides will eventually come together, and that's where he wants to be. They don't want to trade him. They don't want to lose him. He doesn't want to be traded. He doesn't want to go anywhere. So I think he'll be a 49er for them.
They open on that Monday night against the Jets. He should definitely continue not playing until then. One more. Would you be shocked if the Eagles miss the playoffs?
Miss playoffs? Yes, I would be so shocked. You know why? Because it can't get any worse than last year. Last year was a complete train wreck. I think the addition of not only Saquon Barkley, but Kellen Moore, you got Vic Fangio. I think these guys, they got the roster. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown still there. I think Jalen Hurts has a bounce-back year. He was not healthy last year. I don't care what they say. This is a playoff team.
So last year, let's come out and talk about this one, because the Eagles are a really interesting team. Last year was a disaster. The second half of that season for the Eagles, it went beyond the normal team falls apart. It looked like it was worse than that. And there were this terrific article that we had recently about some of the dynamics inside and all the rest of that. And the question is, what Jalen Hurts is going to be available to them this year? What are we going to see from him this season? So the new offensive coordinator is Kellen Moore. They've got ridiculous weapons there. Louis, tell us, what should that offense look like if Jalen Hurts is going to go back to being an MVP candidate and this team is going to go back to being a Super Bowl contender? Describe for the audience in English, what should that offense, I mean, not in football-ese, but in ways we can all understand, what does that offense need to be?
This needs to be one where he really is the distributor, the point guard. And I know people are saying, but he's paid to be like the difference maker, to be the focal point. Well, he's naturally going to be the focal point, but he just needs to be a distributor, because you just mentioned it. Look at all the weapons that they have. Look at what's around him. Turn around and hand the football off to Saquon. Turn around, play action to Saquon, push the ball down the middle of the field to Dallas Goedert, push the ball outside to A.J. Brown, push the ball outside and on crossers to Devontae Smith. When they decide to run RPOs or get you out there on zone reads, be judicious with your decision making, play fast, play decisive. That's really going to be the number one thing that you need to look for, is Jalen Hurts playing fast and playing decisive. meaning the ball is out, especially in the passing game, with a quickness. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see him running around extending plays too much, taking unnecessary hits. Kimberley just alluded to it. He probably was injured last year. You don't want to put him in harm's way, and there's no need to put him in harm's way. You got too many other weapons. The quicker you see him making decisions, getting the ball in other people's hands, the more successful this offense is going to be.
Make it even simpler for me.
Yeah, I'm going to quote the great Mike Greenberg. Sneaky big news. They went out and got Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson was a first-round pick, Greeny, and he will get the opposing team's worst corner. So Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, or Jahan Dotson, take that player in fantasy, because we know that on the outside, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, they're going to be doubled. So all Jalen Hurts has to do is play point guard, get the ball out of his hands, stay healthy. And by the way, the other big number to me, Saquon Barkley, 288 career receptions. What he'll do in the passing game, to me, is really underrated.
I think Barkley, if he stays healthy, is going to have a huge year. Lewis, very quickly, what should I make of this against the blitz thing? A lot was made of this. We had the stat yesterday. Against zero blitz, Jalen Hurts threw the most interceptions of any quarterback in the NFL last year. I want to put this full screen up here because part of that criticism, if I could put up C14, Matt, when we did that poll of like most overrated quarterbacks, one player said, quote, how hard is it to throw jump balls to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? And their tight end is really good. That's Goddard. So, Lewis, what should we make of the fact that they were so bad? He was so bad last year against the blitz.
To me, it's the fact that he wasn't being given answers. Look, and the way I can equate this, I'll just tell this quick story. We talked about it this morning, and I'll be fast. I talked to Josh McCown at the Combine, the quarterback coach in Minnesota, and he said the number one reason why he was excited to be working with Kevin O'Connell was the fact that their offense always had answers for the quarterback. The quarterback never had to come off the field and wonder, what should I be doing now based upon what the defense is doing to me? That Kevin always had an answer built into his system. And see, now that is what that needs to happen in Philadelphia. They need to provide him with answers. And he will be able to, and he should have answers now provided by Kellen Moore to deal with the blitz. Because if you still see some of the same things, at some point, it's going to be put back on him. But I believe they will have more answers for him. We'll see how it plays out.
Kmart.
Listen, I just think Kellen Moore, to me, being here, when you look, I think not just play action, but I think motion is like, I think they got to move the ball around. They got to take advantage of all the weapons. Philly, they ranked last in motion last year, motion overall and motion from the snap. I just think this year they will be so much better. Jalen will have so many other opportunities to be successful in this offense, and it'll look more cohesive than whatever that was last year.
Look, it can't get worse than it got at the end of last year. But if it doesn't get markedly better, and remember, we're going to see them on the opening Friday night, a week from Friday.